So really welcome everybody today to our February program. Really appreciate the time and the effort that you put in to the chapter and your participation in these monthly programs and the other activities that we have going on. So really appreciate that. Again, my name's Todd Hess. I am the president of the ICF High Country chapter, and really appreciate Stacy putting these programs together. She's part of the board, and she's going to be facilitating us, or help with the Zoom and stuff like that as we go on today. A couple of things that we have are social gatherings that are coming up. We have one in Eagle, Idaho on February 24th. We also have the first Thursday on March 3rd in Boise. We are going to start to do some of those in Utah as well. If there is anyone in Utah that can help with some of the coordination of these, Patricia, she's our special events coordinator, that's been helping to organize the Idaho ones. But if there's somebody here, if you just reach out to me, or you can just send an email to admin@icfhighcountry.org and let us know. That way we can start having some of those social gatherings, especially with spring coming up, and we can meet outside. And be nice to have some get-togethers here in Utah as well. Next month, our monthly program is about creating captivating breakthrough sessions, how to powerfully enroll new clients, even in an uncertain world. Tara Butler will be presenting, and that's on March 11th, same time as today. And so we're looking forward to our March session that's coming up. So back in November, we announced that we hit 100 members in our chapter, and celebrated that. Another milestone is ICF Global. They hit 50,000 members, and that includes over 40,000 credentialed members. And so it just kind of shows the growth that we're experiencing here locally in our chapter, but also globally around the world. And it's just phenomenal to see that kind of growth and just the amount of traction and attention that's being brought to our profession. And that is exciting to see. And so we definitely celebrate that and as we move forward. Just a note on earning the CCEUs. Of course, you have registered, else you wouldn't be here today. But you watch for the survey that comes out. You'll see it. Stacy will post it in the chat towards the end of our session today, as well as she will send it out in an email. Put your email in that survey. That way you can get credit for the CCEUs. If you're a guest, then it's $25. It's free if you're a member of our chapter. And so that's a little bit about the CCEUs. At the end of our presentation today, we will have our breakout sessions. And this is just to really get to know each other. So spend some time, talking about where you're at and that, but then also just basically what we'll be focusing on in your practice as a result of today's learning with our presentation today. So this is our networking breakout session. Stacy will put us into our rooms. Really encourage you to stay as long as you can and participate in those breakout rooms. They're really informative and just to help get to know each other where we're at, since we're such a big territory with our chapter. So with that, would like to introduce, today we have Merci Miglino. She is coming to us from Albany, New York, where she was educated as a teacher. She worked as a journalist, a paralegal, and also the communications director for the New York State Legislature. But there's some stories to tell there. And she's now a master certified coach. She hosts a weekly coach mentor session She trains and she coaches in numerous organizations, including International Coach Academy, Coach A, the Blanchard Coaching, Laser Coaching, Clearing Benefits, and also several employee assistant programs as well. She's a noted speaker. She's written a book called From Doormat to Diva, Taking Center Stage in Your Life. Merci serves up a cocktail of humor, insight, education, and inspiration for life and business and changing impact. So with that, thank you very much for your attention through those announcements. And now I'll turn it over to Merci.
Okay. Thank you, Todd. Every time I hear that, I remember the times when I thought I didn't really know what to do. I did so many different things, but I've been coaching for 21 years at this point and teaching coaches probably for the last 15. And honestly, at this stage of my coaching career and of my life, when we take a pause, the pandemic allowed us to do that in some ways, to just really decide what's important to us. And the word legacy came up in one of my meditations. And I didn't think I was old enough to worry about a legacy, but it came up anyway. But I think what I've been doing for the last probably 3 years is about leaving something for the coaching profession that is lasting. It is a delight to be a part of 50,000 coaches worldwide certified by the ICF. I have seen this profession grow from like nobody ever heard of it to it's an established profession internally and externally. So with that in mind, I will get started by sharing my slides. I will pause every once in a while to ask for questions. You can put them in the chat as well. Raise your hand, say, excuse me, that's okay too, whatever makes sense for you. All right, so let's get started here. Okay, so this work, these 7 steps, it came out of all my mentoring, all my teaching, a variety of mentors, and I name them here. A special shout out to Marianne Franklin, who wrote the book, The Heart of Laser Focused Coaching. I loved that book. I extrapolated many aspects of that along with Marsha Reynolds' book and some other people's, and I put it in a course for those prepping for an ICF credential. It's kind of like a bare bones, just what you need kind of course, but it comes out of 15 or 20 years of doing this. So let's jump into the 7 steps. First, I want to really be clear. What is why would I say a 30-minute session? Well, often we're asked to submit a recording for 30 minutes, or I even work for coaching firms that's the standard. When I first started coaching, that was the standard when you were assessed, 30 minutes. And it isn't about just the time. We're not talking about fast coaching. We're talking about lasering in, getting to the heart of the matter. And this is what this is really about. The 30 minutes is a nice catch-all, but imagine using some of these skills, some of the ones you're already using, but maybe kicked up a notch, and notice the impact you can have in such a short period of time. So one of the mindsets, coaches sometimes have is, it's an hour, I should do an hour, or a half hour, why would anyone pay me for a half hour? We have a lot of maybe beliefs around what we deliver, because what we deliver is somewhat, intangible. But let go of that for now. Longer isn't better, shorter isn't the only way, okay? All righty, now, this is where we do have a little audience participation, and it won't hurt, so don't worry about that. I did a lot of speaking for a long time, and I had hired a coach. And one way he had me to a couple of things he had me do to loosen up, get confident, and let go of any anxiety, any desire to, overthink things, which sometimes happens as I was training coaches, and certainly when you're being assessed, it can happen, and it will kind of interfere with the glorious nature of you as a coach. So he would say to me, belt it out, right? So I started, when I was a kid, my dad made me watch all these old movies. So there was a woman called Ethel Merman. It precedes most of you, but she was a very loud, belted out singer. And she was in, I think, Gypsy was the Broadway show, and then the movie. And she would just like go, everything's coming, right? Really belted out. So I started this practice where I literally sing out all my anxieties, because you cannot feel anxious or overthinking when you sing. So it's very simple. It's like your breath. You always have it, and it doesn't matter. Everybody can sing, just some people do it better than others, but everybody can sing. So it lightens you up. It does something to the brain and your energy. So if you're finding yourself, for some reason, maybe you have a big contract or you're submitting a recording to the ICF, try this little trick. See if it helps you lighten up your posture and your perspective. Okay, so the second thing, and I'm going to stop sharing after I talk about this for a second. We all kind of know that take a deep breath, get grounded. I think we can understand why that helps the body and the mind together. The other thing that it's movement. And as coaches, I don't know about you, but sitting in front of a Zoom camera or a phone, I'm not often moving very much. Before the pandemic, I did stand-up training, and I moved a lot. So I was missing that energy, I was missing the energy while I was coaching, So I decided that I would do this little ditty every time I needed to move. So I have, let me just stop sharing my screen for a moment. So here's my invitation to you. You can just follow along, right? It's one of those little songs that almost everybody knows. I've even done this to chapters in Oman, Bulgaria, Singapore, and they kind of knew this song. So just jump in. And the biggest learning from this, how does it feel when someone invites you to be silly and foolish? Because one of the things that holds us back in coaching is the concern that we'll make a mistake, that we're not really coaching, that we've broken some coach laws and they're about to come and get us and put us in coach jail. We get over significant about it. So lighten up, be willing to make a mistake. We know it intellectually. That's how you learn. You make a mistake. But it can creep back into our coaching when we're concerned about our performance. So this is how it goes. You ready? All right, don't hurt yourself. Stay right where you are, and do this within the limitations of your body. You can sit up and make sure your feet are on the floor. All right. So it goes like this. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, stamp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, stamp your feet. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, stamp your feet. All right, last one. If you're happy and you know it, say hurrah, hurrah. If you're happy and you know it, say hurrah, hurrah. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, say hurrah, hurrah. This is truly the last one. You ready? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Hurrah. If you're happy and you know it, do all three. Hurrah. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, do all three. Amen. Hooray. Okay. So that's something to think about. How was that for you to be invited? What 9-second judgment came up for you when you watched Merci Miglino do this silly thing in an ICF chapter presentation? We all have opinions. We all have judgments. And that's something that we learn to have and let go, have and let go. I practice this for a number of reasons. And one of them is I get to feel foolish. I lighten up. In my presentation, I'm not going to trip over words or get concerned that somebody over there isn't smiling. Somebody over there didn't clap their hands. And yet, here I am. I'm solid, I'm whole. I survived. I did more than survive. My body's energetic right now. So this is great insight. How do I react when these things happen? How do I perceive them? All right, maybe this speaks to me, maybe it doesn't, but you just learned something about yourself. Okay, all right, back to sharing, and then I'm going to pause for questions. All right, here's where we were. All right, rock that button. Yeah.
Tom made a comment that he said it does clear your head by doing this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? Someone once told me you can't be, when you're moving your body, it's like it's some kind of neuroscientific thing that it does lighten you up. Even if you're like running and it's strenuous, those endorphins, those things, this happens too, even when you do a little silly thing like this. Since my child is 32 years old, we don't get to play anymore too much, so I have to do it myself. But great, I'm glad that you said it lightens you up. I also have somewhere around here, and I bought this for my clients and myself. It's called the 30-second dance party, and it's a little button, and you hit it, and it plays crazy music for 30 seconds, the 30-second dance party. But this one's a little bit easier. It moves your whole body. All right, let's go. This is the foundation of coaching. If you did nothing else but listen brilliantly, and I mean that, listen like you've never listened before. This elevates your coaching mastery just by this. Listening means letting go of the story, the details. She said this, then this happened, my boss that. Very easy. The brain likes story. The brain likes narrative. It will glom onto that. And then what will happen is you'll go right to strategy, because the brain also likes to fix things. And in my experience, coaches like to fix things. I mean, that's what made us want to be coaches. We thought, we're really good at problem solving and we really like people, so let's get into coaching. Well, then you get there and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I have a partner. They're really good at knowing where they're supposed to go. They know how to fix it if I'm the catalyst, if I bring questions and observations to it. So one of the things to listen for is what makes this a problem for this person. And often, almost always, I would say, it's a perspective, a mindset, an idea, an assumption, or a belief. And that's what we're listening for. We're listening for that. You can let the details of the story kind of just get a little fuzzy around you. You're capturing them, but they're not as significant as the person in front of you. Coach the person. And this allows us, what is really going on for this person? Are they hurt? Are they feeling betrayed? Are they thinking things should be different than they are? Do they have expectations that are just not happening? There's a lot going on. What are their fears? What is making them anxious? What can't they control? And a great source for these common mental mistakes, as CBT therapy calls it, is CBT. There's a book called, and I'll send this around too, The Client's Guide to Cognitive Behavioral Therapy And it's actually written for non-therapists. It's a great guide for the common themes, as Marianne Franklin calls them in her book, common themes that come up for humanity, right? So we're going to play a little bit with that scenario. So let me take a pause here. Let me get off the screen share for a second so I can see people. Oops, go back. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Keeps moving my screen because I can't, my light's in the way. There we go. All right. So thoughts, comments, questions. Let's see this. Anything in the chat?
There was a question. Kent asks, what is the name of that book again?
The one about CBT, is that the one you want, Kent? Do I see Kent shake? Yes, okay. So it's the client's guide to, well, I'll put cognitive behavioral therapy, but it's spelled out. And it's by Aldo Pucci, who, get back here, I got the wrong spelling. He actually, he's one of the, kind of founding people of this therapeutic approach. But there are common themes like expectations, control, taking things personally, people pleasing, lack of setting boundaries, assumptions. These are things that constantly come up in coaching. The story might change. A good example of someone comes to you and they say, I need more time management skills. I'm not doing really well. I'm overwhelmed. All right, very common in my practice, right? So you could coach at the ACC, very low PCC, and begin to go right into what strategies are you using. Do you have a calendar? Do you have a to-do list? The problem with that is we haven't heard what's making this a problem to them. So there are common things, common beliefs, perspectives, mindsets that, linger below the line when someone's having trouble managing time. What are the common misconceptions people are under when they can't manage time? Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, Merci, I was just curious. I think one of the challenges I have when I do shorter coaching sessions is I feel like I have to get to the solution, right? We've got 30 minutes to solve whatever it is.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of rationalize going deeper with feeling like you have to get to some sort of endpoint at the end of 30 minutes?
Yeah. Okay. Two things, and you've heard them before, Paul. But, one is trust the process. All right. If I have someone come to me with a time management issue, right? So I say to them, okay, so it sounds like you're a smart person, you're a VP in this company, or you're running your household. What is really getting in the way? All right, that's a great question. What's really getting in there? Or what do you think needs to be addressed? The sooner I can bring forward something for them to consider, not advise them, consider. For example, it sounds like there's a lot of pressure to be productive. What is your experience when you're sitting still? I had this question just the other day when the person was talking, and when I brought that up, it was just snippets of what she had already said. I didn't invent the question. I said, it sounds like somebody who feels they have to fill up every square in their calendar. Who would you be if you didn't? And in 15 minutes, we got from, now, very coachable person. I'll say that from the beginning. But we got to, well, if I'm not productive, then I'm not valuable or worthy, and then I'm not safe. So I wouldn't, I know that there's lots of things that people do. They're misconceptions. All right. I don't like the word sabotage. I don't know why. Maybe it's just, my political campaign background, and it reminds me of war, but it's very, think of some of the faulty strategies your client is using. So to say, okay, so what I'm hearing is if you're productive, you'll be safe. When you came into this session, you said you were fatigued, unfocused, and concerned about your health. What do you see about this link between safety and your health? Right? There's two techniques there. One is play back what they said. And if you see a connection, offer it to them. This is the one thing I think people think, oh, I have to know the client better. I'm going to be seen as too New York, which was my concern in the beginning. But if you say it in a way, you notice I took the word you out of it. Sounds like someone, right? I can say a lot of strong things, including metaphors, by taking the you out. I once had a VP come on the call, blaming everybody. They're giving me too much work. I want to show up for them. I'm new at the job, but this person's doing this. And then the president wants me to do this. And I just listened to it for because he would not slow down. Now he was a New Yorker, so culturally competent, I think I can say this pretty much. I said, it sounds like someone who's not using their personal power, sort of like a victim. What do you think? Well, that stopped him in his tracks. Now, what was interesting is he didn't glom onto that right away, but he stopped putting everything on everybody else for a moment. And then at the end of the call, he said, yeah, I've been acting like a victim. So I didn't push it. Whatever came up, came up. But that's one of the 7 steps. If you see something, say something. Find a way. Soften the delivery, not the impact of what you're noticing. This is your value, right? And you can do it early on. The sort of the structure is, I reflect back what I heard from my client. Any strong words, I'm going to pick up on. I may not refer to them right away, but I had a client yesterday said, my work life is bleeding into my life. I said, and then she talked a little bit about, what her life looked like. So I didn't need to ask her, what do you mean by work-life balance? Because she had given me a lot of details. But if she just said, oh, I need better work-life balance, I would have said, what do you mean by that? Not assumed, right? But when she said her work was bleeding into her personal life, I said, wow, bleeding, that's an interesting choice of words. Sounds painful. Sounds almost like dangerous. What do you think? And, the client can say, oh, I was exaggerating, or they can say, well, that's how it feels. It feels like I'm not getting enough sleep. And it could go right over their head too. This is the best part of coaching. You don't have to be right. You just have to be right enough. You have to be right there. What other profession? I mean, I worked in 4 or 5 professions, and you had to be right most of the time. Here, I have a process. I get in the process and I row and I row and I row. The process is what gets to the solution. And I think that's what happens. We want to jump into strategy because we see that as the deliverable and what is expected. So hold that to be true, yes. But what happens in this kind of laser focus is you get to the real agreement quicker. All right, the topic was time management, not the agenda. So you got to ask, reflection, ask the first question. And the first question is not, am I right? Ask the first question. And it's a probing question. It's a reflective question. It could even be as a reflective inquiry, what you heard back to the client. start to explore. At around 10 minutes or so, that client will give you more information about what she truly wants, and it'll be more authentic, right? And more specific. And then what happens when they have an awareness, you know, when you have, we all think we hear the aha, but one of the awareness is they start to go into action. They'll say something like, yeah, you know, I never thought of it like that. You know, maybe I just need to, you know, start small, block out some time in my calendar for the things that I really love to do. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. And if I start to feel uneasy that I'm not doing something, I'm going to find a way. I don't know what that way is yet, but I'm going to find a way to remember that I'm still worthy, even if I'm just staring out the window and having a cup of tea. They usually start towards solution. Like I said, not everyone should be laser coached. There's no one size fits all. Many of my contracts are for an hour coaching. So what I do is do my best and, you know that I have time. We might get to 2 kind of issues or not, but I allot the hour and it's up to them. You know, if it's 45 minutes and I say, are you complete? Is there something else you need? No, I'm fine. Nobody ever complains that it's not 1 hour. All right. Anyone else before I move into the slides?
Yeah, I got just one thing real quick.
Sure.
That you brought up, and my name's Greg, by the way. Thank you very much for having me. That the subject of time management is something that comes up a lot where I work as a coach. And I would say about 85% of the time, when someone brings time management as the issue, it's never time management. And
Right.
the exception of I work at a university. So there are a number of women, like single mothers, that have full-time jobs. They're going to school. They're trying to, like, then it's about time management, I have found. But for most, it's just not. I had a colleague ask me to coach him, essentially laser coach him very quickly. And he is a minister. He's also a full-time colleague of mine. He has a family and he wanted to get his MBA. And he's like, I just don't have the time, but I really want to do it. And I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, if someone offered you tomorrow a free MBA, you could go for free. Would you take it? He's like, yeah. And then he's like, oh, I hate you. Because it wasn't about time. It wasn't about that. It was about something else. So
yeah, that's great, Greg. And sometimes they do the same, they'll do with it. Oh, I don't have the money.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then we all know that generally that cannot be the thing. It might, right? The great question that, again, I find that I was reluctant to ask it, and I noticed other people are, they want to kind of go positive, and I'm going to motivate my client. Pain is the greatest motivator there is. There are study after study that says people move away from pain more than they move toward pleasure. You know, and if you've ever dieted and put that picture on your refrigerator of what you want to look like, how long did that really last? Or you wanted to look this way for a wedding. How long did that last, right? The bottom line is, for sustainable change, you have to change the mindset. You know, all coaching is transformational. MCC level coaching is even more so. So thanks for that great example. Let me get back to my slides and then we can, let's see, share my screen. And then play from current slide. Okay, let's get past this. All right, so this I touched on already. If you see something, say something. Get comfortable with sharing an observation. Soften the delivery. It seems like, I'm noticing. You could use a metaphor. Cheryl Richardson, which was probably the first coach I ever found out about, and she was, sort of at the forefront of ICF and things. She used a great metaphor once, when somebody was trying to get somebody to do something and everything they were doing was not working, but they wouldn't give up. Even though the strategy wasn't working, the nagging, the shutting down, silent treatment. And she said, it sounds like you're going to the hardware store for milk. What do you think? So metaphors are so much fun to use in coaching. Your client may give you a metaphor or an analogy, always pick it up. They're giving you a succinct, compact way of informing you about what is going on for them. My life is bleeding, my work life's bleeding. Or the trains are off the track. Okay, so what has them going off the track? So this comes really easy for some folks. They just, rattle off metaphors and analogies. But you can learn anything in that regard. And if you put coaching and metaphor in a Google search, you'll get more than your money's worth of possibilities. But it's always good to have one or two that encapsulate these common mental mistakes. So soften the delivery. Take the word you out of it. And check in with your intention. Make sure your intention is, I see something, I'm going to say something and offer it to my client. They can take it or leave it. And either way, I will be fine. If you take that out of it, then you're just much more likely to use them creatively. The coaching agreement, all right? Like I said, the topic is not the agenda. It's the tip of the iceberg. So if someone comes and says, I'm really having a struggle with time management, my work life's bleeding into my personal life. If I ask somebody, okay, so what do you need from the session today? I might get an answer, a good answer. But other times what I've noticed is I just get the same thing they just said. Right? And if someone says they need strategy, don't buy it. Don't buy it yet. Pick it up, look at it, check out the price, but don't buy it. Because when you start asking them, what would a strategy do for you? It's the same with the word plan. I need a plan. Great. So what would a plan do for you? Often when they tell me, it sounds like they already have a strategy or a plan. So it doesn't seem like it's really the thing getting in the way. And I might bring that up. All right, not in every case, but it could be that. It does show up like that sometimes. So probe a little, explore a little before you get to the agreement. And you generally know the right time for the agreement when you've unpacked some of this stuff with your client and they're just, either they're stuck and they can't get you don't hear any new awareness, or you see them at a little glimmer of maybe this isn't exactly the way I thought it is. And that's when you ask the agreement. All right. And of course, in MCC level coaching, you have to check in the beginning, middle, and end. If it seems like it's changed, you must address it and recontract it. All right, so here's my fictional example. All right, I got to get this out of my way. So Jason tells you he just got a new job after a few months of trying and is excited about the work. He also says he's putting a lot of pressure on himself to keep up with those who have worked for the company for several years and fears that he will not succeed if others think he's failing. So the first question I want to ask is, what are the facts here? And just because I can't see everybody at once, just feel free to unmute and blurt it out. What are the facts?
That he has a new job.
Yep, he has a new job. Anything else?
He's putting pressure on himself.
Okay, that's in a way a fact, but it's also tells you something about the person, right? So why I ask what are the facts is sometimes people say he's excited about work, he's putting pressure on himself, and he has fears. That's not fact. That's who that person is. That's how they're seeing things.
There's others that have been there longer.
Yeah, yeah. It's like when people ask, coach the person, not the problem. The person is excited, you know, putting pressure, fear of failing. That's the person. Those aren't facts, because can I change those things? Can Jason change them? Could coaching perhaps change them? Yes. But I can't change his new job. All right, so somebody said something along these lines. What is the misconception here that that's causing him, like, what is making this a problem for him? What is the perspective that is getting in his way?
Is it that his success depends on other people? Or other-
I didn't hear that fully.
Is it that his success depends on other people's opinion?
Yeah, that's part of it, sure.
I just wanted to point out that the value that he's associating with being new and lacking that self-confidence, that he actually brings something to the situation, regardless of the fact that he's brand new and there are people that have been there longer. He's kind of selling himself short with that aspect.
That is it in a nutshell. If I were to read this not like a coach, right? Let's say this was my friend Jason and he calls me up and he's telling me this. You know what my first thought would have been? What has you comparing yourself to other people who've been there several years? Doesn't add up. And that's the thing. I wouldn't say that in a coaching session, but the thought is a good one. Take the judgment out of it. That's curious. That doesn't make sense. Let me ask the client about it. I'm not going to go off and assume I'm correct and right, but I'm going to say, what has you comparing yourself to people who have been there several years longer than you? That's a misconception. That's a contradiction. And a coach will look for things that just don't add up. This happens quite a bit with people will tell you one thing, and then they'll tell you something that's almost the opposite. And you're, as a coach, you notice it and you say, something's not adding up for me. Like somebody the other day was struggling with a direct report that she had who's very process oriented. And the person I was coaching was struggling with it. And as she's telling me about this, I'm noticing that she's a process person. I'm picking up clues. So I would say, seems like you are sort of a process person too. What do you think? And she just got it. She's like, oh yeah, this is interesting, right? It was an awareness. She saw herself in the very problem that she was having with someone else. And that's not unusual. All right, let's, so we talked about what's the idea or perspective limiting, and that was that somehow a common theme in coaching, comparing ourselves to others. Common coaching themes and mindsets. I mentioned Aldo Pucci's book. I also will mention The Heart of Laser Focus Coaching. Marion Franklin calls them themes. And sometimes you just have a sense of what's making it a problem. Like the first thing someone said, about, this expectation that he should be somewhere, it doesn't always add up. Ask about it. What has a client doing this? Not why. I'm a big fan of the what question. I wasn't always, but after, working towards my MCC, I see it's the safest, most open, curious question anyone can ask without sounding or risking sounding like provoking defensiveness. So what is the problem for this person? What is making this a problem? What's the idea, the thought, perspective? And then sometimes someone will get on the call and just start talking, and maybe you're even getting lost in the details. One thing that brings me back to the conversation is, why are they telling me this? I don't ask them that, but I'm like, that helps me tune my ears into what's making this a problem for them. Often, especially when someone's trying to make a decision and they're talking about, I could do this, but then this and that and this and that. And you're like, wow, he's done the pros and cons. Where do I go from here? Well, if I really listen hard, often when someone's trying to make a decision, what gets them stuck is they think there's only one right decision in that situation. And the worst will happen if he doesn't choose it. Or she doesn't choose it. That's an assumption of perspective. All right. This is the question that someone asked. Once you get to the shift, and that is either they're starting to have some awareness, or let's say they're getting stuck. Like you can see them, they go towards an alternative perspective, and yet they kind of slide back down. In my coaching school, we called it the quitting zone. It's like they get right close to it, but then they fall back into their old belief. One of the most powerful questions to get someone over the hump and into action is, what is it costing you? Not to fill in the blank. Not to set boundaries with your coworkers. What is it costing you? You generally want to ask, after they give you their first question, what else is it costing you to not set boundaries with your coworkers? Because the first answer, again, tends to be what's top of mind. In coaching someone yesterday, they were having a challenge. I forgot what it was around. I opened my notes today so I could have some real life things for you. Well, I think she said it was costing her relationship with her husband because she's working too much and she's working through the night. And okay, so I said, what else is it costing you to not set boundaries around your work? Pause, because she had to think about it. And she said, it's costing me peace and happiness. Well, that'll get you over the hump a lot quicker than, yeah, my husband, me and my husband are just fighting about it. For this person, that was an eye-opener. And that's when the shift happens. That's the point where the coach gets to leverage a little bit of awareness and then to evoke more, like competency 7, to evoke more awareness with the what else question. Okay. So this is a great time. I don't to have any questions. Let me just get to stop sharing my screen. All right.
We had one comment, and
Yes.
the person said, my main problem with the half hour was that the unpacking takes 20 or more minutes.
If that is the typical way with a particular client, then maybe 30 minutes is not suitable. Go back and think about it. Do I hear something and don't say anything? Am I stuck on the details of the story? When you reflect back, like the first thing someone says, summarize it. Make it crisp. It should be 1 or 2 sentences. Of course, in there will be empathy, or that sounds like, I know a lot of people struggle with that. Normalize it. Be empathetic, make sure they know you're listening to them. But you can start right from that first question to unpack what's going on. The second thing that I can't stress this enough, is learning what are the common mental mistakes. Not so you can diagnose or be right. They're clues. Just like all your experience as a coach informs your coaching, right? You begin to see how, something around time management could be something else, right? You become wiser, and you will, leverage that wisdom by understanding it from the experience that you have coaching. And the more you read about coach the person, not the problem, and get to the heart of the matter, it gets easier and easier to see that your sessions start to be a little less time with a greater impact.
And she replied, "Thank you."
All right, thank you. Thief of joy. Yes, that's so true, Greg. Thank you. All right. Anything else?
I just wanted to share, I thought it was a great reminder at the beginning doing the dancing, singing portion, is how often we ask our clients to step into uncomfortable spaces and to just be aware of our own hesitation as we were asked to do this. And just that awareness, that reminder of, we are constantly pushing clients and really helping them to strive for that. And yet, how did we embrace that? Did we really step into it with excitement, or did we go, I just thought that was really powerful. It was a great reminder.
Yeah, it is. It is about us. How do we feel about, discomfort? How do we feel about sitting with someone in discomfort? Because that's a great awareness for a coach. Anything else coming up?
See, I have a question. So you were talking about like the coaching agreement. So in that coaching session, it seems like when you're coaching the person and not the problem, that it's harder to so at the end of the session, what do you want? Can you expand a little bit more on that?
On the coaching agreement itself?
Yeah, within the session.
Yeah. Well, first, there's all kinds of language around this, whatever's comfortable for you, so what would be helpful in our session today, what needs to be addressed in order to get that. The question of what's important about this now is sometimes the first question I ask, even though it's sort of in the agreement. Now, let's say you're going through the session and somewhere around 10 or 12 minutes, there's either you get a sense that now it's evolving into something else, or the person's got off track, or you think they are off track. You could say, so let's just take a pause here. Where are we with what you wanted to achieve in our session today? And this is an especially helpful question when the client just keeps going back into the story and giving you evidence as to why the story can't change. Don't you get to try to get him to change perspective. Let's bring it forward again. Almost like you said you wanted X when you came into the session. Where are we with this? Or what do you see about that? Does that answer your question, Todd?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So if someone has a little coaching ditty, I can do like a 10-minute little laser session. We probably won't get to a full session, of course, but at least you could maybe see some of this play out, you know, in a shorter session. At least get to maybe an awareness. Anyone have something? You can play the role of your client if you want. A client. I'll give it a minute. Sometimes people like to think about this. No? Do you want me
I
to
can
make-
offer myself if you.
Good, I was gonna make you all sing and dance for the last 10 minutes.
Let's see, I can turn on my camera as well.
Is
There
it
we go.
Liliana?
Liliana, yes.
Yeah, okay. So she's playing the role of the client and we're all observers. So go ahead, Ileana.
Well, as a recent coach graduate, I started my business. I had to learn a lot on sales, marketing, and exposure. And I have plenty of ideas, but most of them do not come to conclusion, which has led me to not getting the amount of clients I want.
Mhm. Okay, so you finished your coach training. Congratulations. And you have a lot of ideas, plenty of ideas, and there's a lot to do with them. But it's not really amounting to anything. It's like you're not getting where you want to go.
Correct.
So what do you think is getting in the way?
The short answer is me.
Okay.
Um,
And what about you?
Sometimes it's fear of rejection, fear that my ideas will fruit to nothing. So it's easier not to expose myself than put something out and have nobody enroll.
Mhm.
I would say that is the biggest one.
Okay, so a fear of putting yourself out there and nobody will enroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you chose not to put yourself out there, what would that be costing you?
Income. I could have gotten the PCC certification. I had everything ready, including my 30-minute recording, but my hours, they were not enough. So that's, for example, something that I had already paid for.
Mhm.
And in general, yeah, have my business become my main source.
Mhm. So what made you want to be a coach?
I still think I have an insight into people. I can see deeply people, and I'm able to understand things and share them back.
Mhm.
So I thought that would be a key asset to becoming a coach, and I could help a lot of people by
Mhm.
doing that.
Okay, so I heard that you're intuitive, you have insight, and you believe you can help a lot of people. What else made you want to be a coach?
After being in corporate for many years and having my kids 12 hours on daycare, I like the idea of being able to manage my time and be able to be with my kids whenever they needed me.
And what's important to you about being with your kids?
I like enjoying key moments that are not going to happen again. They're going to grow up, they're going to have their lives, and that's it. But the Mother's Day festival is only going to happen a handful of times. That's it.
Okay, so they're very important to you.
Yes, they are.
And what might be the link between choosing coaching because you want to help people, because it allows you to be with your children? And what is the link between that and this fear of rejection?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if you had this in mind when you asked that question, but might actually prove the point you made earlier. The more successful I become, it will also take away the time I have with my children.
It's an interesting thought. And
Yes.
what else might be true?
When I feel rejected, I don't feel a good role model for my daughter. I feel defeated, and I want her to see me brave and powerful and successful in my chosen career.
Okay. So it sounds like you want to get to a top of the mountain without actually climbing it. What do you think?
Yeah.
Right? What would it be like? I'll paint a picture. You can take it in if you like. To struggle with the normal things of building a business, and your children witness you working hard for something that's so important for you. What experience would that be like?
I think it would be balance, but a struggle on, like, they have to be without mom for a few hours when they might want me, but at the same time they will see how for them it would translate to, if you do your homework, if you put more work into what you have to do, you can get the good grades that you want. Or so I think they will be able to make that connection now, like you work hard for something that you want to happen.
Okay. So you came in and you said, you know, you had this fear of rejection. Where are we with that?
Well, I still fear the rejection, but I think it's more important that I go through that. Like, if I think of the example I'm leaving my children and the main reason why I started doing this, that has more relevance than being rejected.
Okay. So from this kind of new way of thinking, what would make this session helpful to you? What would you like to have as we go down the road to completeness?
I don't know if this is in the session, but I thought in my life, like, I want to always have this goal. The goal is not necessarily be $1 million coach, like seen in social media. I want to be the successful career woman that my daughter can imitate.
Okay. So what's one step towards that?
To put hours, even if it's 1 hour, that she can see that I'm working on this.
Okay. All right. And what else? You said you had plenty of ideas and a lot to do. What else? What is the next step after that? What would you do in that hour?
Choose one. Excuse me. I think you just said we have the idea that our clients fear that there's only one solution, and if they don't choose the right one, things are going to crumble. Well, just choose one of those ideas and bring it to conclusion. Not overthink if it's the right one or not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So are we complete with this demo, Eliana?
Yes. Thank you so much, Merci.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being so willing to do this. All right. Anyone, feedback? I have a few more minutes. Questions? Yes, I asked 2 questions at a time. Zap myself for that. I still do that. It's just from years of teaching. You're always saying things 3 different ways. Anything else you noticed? What worked? What didn't? What don't you understand? Oh, thank you, whoever said. Vicky, thank you, Vicky.
I thought it was an interesting observation that almost a contradiction I heard was I want to have a career, but I also want to be a mom, that how those two are fighting with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And the biggest insight, which is a common one, by the way, that if I get successful, right, Not, I might lose time with my children. I will. It's almost as if, I mean, that's not true. It could be true, but what else could be true? Could be that the more successful you are, the less hours you have to work. I mean, that's where people get caught up in that kind of all or nothing thinking, which is a really big coaching thing. All or nothing, always and never.
Merci, I like the metaphor you used with the mountain, because I think that actually turned the key to what came afterwards, that kind of realization.
Yeah, I ditto that. That was just excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, I love metaphors. I mean, I'm a writer. I've you know, it comes easy for me. It's just the way I am. But I have worked with coaches who love it and feel they don't have the confidence to try one. So, you know, they go and Google it, and all you need is a couple of favorite ones, you know, and if an image comes to your mind, share it. Because that's what I heard. I heard like, okay, so you just want to be there, but not like there's a misconception, isn't there? If I fail, I'll never get to the top. No, you will fail. You will take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. That's the path of achievement. It's not a straight line. So just saying that, she got a giggle. You're right. She was like, yeah, oh yeah, that doesn't sound right. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else before I complete?
I put in the chat. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Greg. I'll be quick. So I just noticed how you did check in with her, like at the midway, like this. I can't remember the question you asked, but you did check in with her midway about what she first talked about. I really like that.
Yeah. I'm just inviting you guys to if you want, I'm giving you a guest pass to one of my mentor groups if you want to check it out. The thing is, if that were a longer session, you know, the coaching agreement, I might have asked it a little sooner. But sometimes I don't ask it till 15 minutes and the client has had an awareness. And now what they want is something completely different. Or not completely different, but like they'll say, well, I want to get started. Okay, so what would help you get started? Rather than, you know, I have a fear of rejection. Don't let your client off the hook there, you know, because we all do that, right? We all say, well, you know, I'm a saboteur. I'm a procrastinator. I label myself and then it gets in my way. Okay.
I wonder too, like sorry, this is Amber, hi. As they start to build their next steps and their ideas, and we want to keep it small, you know, it resonated for me when she talked about not wanting to miss any of her children's milestones, you know. It's like, well, is this not a big milestone for you to be celebrating right now? You know, all this hard work and now you're ready to launch things. You know, do you see a correlation there? How could you celebrate your own milestone?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And again, you would notice that maybe it's like I'm noticing that, you know, milestone seems to be important to you, and especially with your children. I'm curious, what's this milestone for you? Right? Or what would it be like? Or you try to not, you know, I think it's a great question. Just be careful that we're not like falling into cheerleading, you know, like, oh, so you did that, wonderful, you know, and then bring it back to that. But yeah, to say, okay, so where are you in your milestone? You know, where milestone are you at? And I'm curious, sometimes people come on and they tell you all the accomplishments and there's no sense of pride. And you're like, wow, it sounds like you're really downplaying all this that you have accomplished. What's that about? Yeah.
I like that question though, to not fall into cheerleading. I'm going to ponder that a little bit.
Yeah. This is why I do training, because I tend to want to do that. So in training, I think it's a little bit more acceptable to want to rally people. You know, I mean, I have a background where I stood on desks and got 500 people in the field on a lousy election day. So, you know, I am known as a bit of a cheerleader. So Yeah, I try to watch it in my coaching.
Wanting to get to the change.
Yeah, yeah, and only because you care about them, but that's where that observation, that, objectivity, being comfortable with not knowing. Yeah, and with whatever happens. Yeah. One of my mentor coaches once said to me, your job isn't to help people. And I was like, your job is, you have a coaching process. Helping them is the bonus. And it really helped me detach from, I have to be the person who gets someone to resolution. And I do a lot of corporate coaching, so it still works.
Mercy, you said that you had an invitation for us to join your mentoring group. I didn't see that come through.
Oh, maybe I didn't, I didn't hit the send button.
And maybe I'm missing it. I don't know.
Oh, I got it here. Okay, let's do this. I'll just give you my email. It's a guest pass. If you email me, I'll send you the logons. I do this all the time. Like I said earlier, it's not that I don't, value my time. I just feel like I have an opportunity to give back. So if coming to a session helps you improve your coaching, that's all the compensation I need.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And I love the question, what is it costing you? Excellent question.
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys go and do your networking. I can't join you, unfortunately. My sister's taking me on a spa weekend for my birthday, la-di-da. So know that it's for a good cause that I'm missing you.
Well, thank you so much, Mercy, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday. Thanks very much.
That was really beautiful. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
So we're going to now go into our breakout rooms, basically, introduce ourselves, spend a little time and get to know each other. But also, what are you taking away from the session? What are you going to implement from today's learning into your own practice? And so stay